Hey guys, you are watching Vol as usual. Today we're going to do a battle report featuring my Haqqislam list against the Neo Terra Capitoline army, and it will be on engineering deck. I do a lot of games of Infinity at the moment, but I don't always do the bat reps. The reason why I've chosen this bat rep to post is that it's on engineering deck, and that was the mission that I talked about in my recent thread on the forums regarding the lieutenant roll-off, and also my video if you watched that recently. If you haven't checked that out, would recommend going and having a listen to my thoughts about how and why you make the decision to go first or second or pick the table side. And I used engineering deck as an example of a mission where I felt like you could win going first or second, but there was a slight advantage to going second. So here we are actually playing another game on an engineering deck after having that discussion, and my opponent won the roll and decided to take the table side that he preferred, which is fine because we are now trying to create some tables where one of the table sides is a bit less comfortable for deploying on, with a little bit less terrain, and we've generally got some more fire lanes and so forth in general. So given that small disadvantage, and given the kind of list I was running, I decided to go first. And what I want to focus on in this particular battle rep is the result of doing that. Do you need to inflict a lot of damage initially? What if you can't? Can you stop your opponent from winning in that last turn? And I think one of the most important factors in this game is that playing Haqqislam, I have actually committed to a few aggressive things which do benefit from first turn, especially the Rajik, the Rajik. Well, I have taken a Rajik with Spitfire, so he does benefit from taking first turn, but it's not essential. I've got the FIDE in there as well, and I think, well, I guess the FIDE and the Rajik work together in the sense that if the FIDE destroys a piece that your opponent is using as an ARO, then you might have an opportunity to come in with a Rajik. The other thing about Haqqislam, or vanilla Haqqislam at least, is that when you're using the Gazi Motiwa, you can position them in your final turn to points under total cover in the middle of the table, preventing your opponent from moving into the objectives that they need to capture, or at least deterring them from that, because if they do move in, you get to potentially jammer them, and that stops them from completing the objective. So I think that's really, really important. So without any further ado, having talked all that up, let's just see if we can get into the game. Played quite a few games at the club the other day, so we'll go through it. So this is my deployment zone, setting up as Haqqislam. On the left, we've got, in fact, this list features four Nafatuns, two with the light flamethrower, two with the heavy flamethrower. One of the light flamers is the lieutenant. I've got the Gazi Motiwa scattered around, so there's one sitting around here, another one over here. This is the left-hand deployment, so I've got the usual Janzaban HMG here with the Doctor and Palbot nearby. That's in fact the lieutenant right here, but the Doctor's Palbot is situated here. The Ghulam Doctor Plus, the Ghulam, the Camille Bagwidge remotes, and we've got a whatchamacallit, Barid Killer Hacker on the left hand side. I really like the Killer Hacker, just the standard profile there. HVT on the left hand side with the Farzan Fort Observer here. That's the objective room there, and you can see the blue consoles are the engineering deck objectives. On the right hand side, my deployment, I've got Gazi Motiwa on the side, more Navatuns. This is my first game with the Lazik sniper rifle, and we're gonna see how he does as an ARO piece. My idea for the Lazik is to not use him as an ARO piece initially. I'm gonna try and take out some things that my opponent will use long range, and then move him into position and have the Doctor nearby to actually repair him, to revive him if he does go down. So I think that's the way to play him. Central side of the table, so we've got another Gazi Motiwa I haven't photographed there. That's Lieutenant that I pointed out, so it's just the center side, and the left hand side again, so a bit closer look at it. My opponent here, good old Jason, the Admiral from the forums, Admiral JCJF. You guys are probably familiar with his Pan-Oceania posts. He's got the 5-man Fusilier Link team, so there are 2 standard Fusiliers, one of which is likely to be the Lieutenant. He's got the missile launcher and the Hacker back here as well. So only the missile launcher is not prone, and he's got the Doctor's Palbot back here just to move up and revive him if he does lose it. Locust infiltrated close to the objective room. Auxiliary team and Pathfinder nearby. This is the middle section of deployment. You can see the Diva Spitfire MSV2 with the Warcore as well. That's his HVT further out. and on the right hand side for him he's got the engineer and an auxiliary team here, plus a Spitfire Bulletier, if I can take my camera out of the way. So Bulletier, Spitfire up the side there. It's the first time that I've encountered him using the Bulletier Spitfire, but I'm very familiar with how it works from playing against my most regular opponent. So my reserve model, being the player going first, is to put the FIDE here next to the staircases and beyond 12 inches away. And the beauty of the aggressive FIDE is that when you move out with your first short skill and then use another short skill, your opponent just can't shoot at you at all for that order, because even if he discovers you with one of his arrows, anybody else that holds is just going to lose their arrow if you keep moving. So the best that your opponent can do is just hit you with 2 discovers, which both go off, and you're reduced to your real model. So you have at least one 8-inch move to get into position, and then you can attack, which is why I'm starting to like the boarding shotgun more and more. So he's got HVT. This is a Locust with a assault hacking device, if I remember the right one. Yeah, this is the assault hacking device one. So you can see the FIDE started out in this position here, in this little empty space next to the other Locust, and it's moved forward. Everybody's tried to discover him. He's gone down a level, and then the FIDE walks up the stairs with the second order. And the purpose of this is to line up a shot. And as you can see from this image, if we just take the camera out of the way again, the point is to reveal the FIDE here with surprise shot. Obviously the link team ignores surprise shot, but the purpose of this is to put the boarding shotgun into the HMG model, right? Or to the whatever this model is supposed to represent, a Fusilier with combi rifle. And because the FIDE is tall enough to actually see the bottom of the bridge and the missile launcher which is standing up, any hits with a shotgun will actually not be negated in terms of hitting the missile launcher. And the only reason I'm moving in here is to kill the missile launcher. It's not to try and eliminate a lieutenant or get a lot of kills. All I'm trying to accomplish is to set the missile launcher at least unconscious, because if I can do that, I can actually move in on this flank with a lot of other troops and not get shot at. So bearing that in mind, if you're defending against this FIDE, what do you want to do? I think that the correct choice is to dodge, possibly with the whole link team, but at least with the missile launcher. What actually happened is that he ARO'd with his Locust further off the photo, and his auxiliary bot with heavy flamethrower. So those two things combined are probably going to be enough to kill the FIDE. What he decides to do here is to shoot at me with the 2 Fusiliers that can see me. So this Fusilier here, combi rifle, and this missile launcher here, using the missile launcher, of course, and using hit mode rather than the template, because he wants to eliminate the FIDE, or at least try and beat me in the face-to-face roll. But notice that the boarding shotgun, when it connects with this, puts down a template. So here's the FIDE, here's the target being hit right here, and here's the missile launcher. So the Fusilier that wins any face-to-face shootouts here will actually negate any shots against this model, but it won't negate the shots against the missile launcher. So my thinking in this sort of situation is that you should probably, I mean, knowing what the other guy's trying to do, knowing that the other guy's trying to assassinate your heavy weapon, probably the better choice is to actually dodge with the missile launcher and break out of the link team, and then shoot back with everything else. Because if there's even a small chance that dodging can actually allow you to survive some of the shots, let's say the FIDE rolls a 2 and a 7 and your dodge happens to be an 8, well, you've dodged both shots, so you live. But if it's like a 5, well, you dodge at least one of the shots and you might pass the armor save on the other attack, meaning that, you know, you've got a chance of actually continuing the turn arrowing, or, you know, if you only take 1 wound, the doctor can revive you. But by shooting, it means that potentially the FIDE hits both shotgun rounds and you actually get removed. And that actually is what happened in this particular game. So the other thought behind breaking the link and dodging with him is that as long as you can just keep him alive, as an ARO piece, he's still going to be useful. Ballistic Score 12 missile launcher, just not as useful. I mean, at least you're still going to be able to kill Gazimoti while running around and drop troopers, right? And then in your following turn, you can just reform the link. You can actually get him back in there. So Fide dies predictably, and here's the aftermath. So I've actually killed both Fusiliers, including the missile launcher. And then the Rajik comes on the side of the table, and the idea here is that the Rajik cannot actually be hit by the missile launcher now. If he does have a Hex sniper in hidden deployment, that's fine, because doing this allows me to find out where it is, and for the rest of the game I no longer have to play against, you know, a hidden deployment model. And also there's a reasonable chance that the Hexer will just miss, right? So it's only got like a 60% chance of hitting, and then I've got 2 saves to make, and so long as I pass one of them I can keep going with Dogged. So good situation for the Rajik to be in. Moving around the side here, Rajik is easily able to get line of sight to this. I'll just move the camera to here. Easily able to get line of sight to this Locust over here with the boarding shotgun and rip him up with the Spitfire. I think it took a couple of attempts, but well worth it, because this model is a good one to remove earlier in the game, because that's, you know, something he's planning on spending orders on. And then further around the side, just right into his deployment zone, picking off this Auxilia here. This is also a forward observer, so again, you know, you want to kill these guys before they kill you. Not only can that model go out and score and grab objectives, but he's moving out that flamethrower bot as well, so taking him out in the first turn is a very good thing to do. And then back to the other side of the table, we can actually start moving around with Gazi Motiwa. Hilariously, we both forgot to resolve the impetuous models, so we went back and did that, and we discovered that, hey, you know, none of the Gazi Motiwa would have run into ARO of that missile launcher, or at least maybe the one that did. I spent an order restraining him. Then, because the missile launcher is destroyed, and what I say destroyed, like actually removed from the table, not just unconscious, the Lasik can now move up. If the missile launcher had just flatly gone unconscious, I don't think I would have moved the Lasik up, right? Because what he can do is just revive the missile launcher, reform the link, and then stand up and shoot me. I'm 1 dice needing 12 to hit, whereas he's 2 dice needing 12 to hit, because mimetism cancels the link team bonus effectively, range cancels cover, but he's got 2 dice, then I just get destroyed. So, but having seen what happened there, I mean, he's not really going to have as much success attacking the Lasik with just combi rifles, because the range penalty and mimetism and cover, you know, might just result in him losing more guys. And now the Lasik can actually cover this objective here, up in the top right corner. So this is the right-hand flank. We've got the Lasik that I just talked about up on the left here on top of the building, and the Gazi Motiwa in the foreground of the photo. I'm trying to keep him hovering around there, because I know that my opponent has a Garuda, right? So, I mean, we're talking about the dude who just recently wrote an article about Garudas, a very generic article showing, you know, what the profiles are and so forth, and he's been playing Garudas in the last few games, and I can see, like, there's a gap in his list, and he hasn't revealed a hidden deployment model yet, so chances are there's a Garuda, and by placing the Gazi Motiwa here, it just means that he can't bring the Garuda on here. Chain rifle will cause a wound, or I can use the jammer, or whatever I need to. Also note that this particular scenario engineering deck stops you from actually trying to land the drop trooper in a template. You have to bring it along the side of the table, so it's going to be very predictable as to where he comes on. As you can see, the Lasik also covering off part of the side of the table too, and on the other side of the table there's a little bit of a gap as well where he can cover that across. In his turn, he's moving through with his Haqq to the side here and engaging with me in a bit of a shootout, and with the active turn bonus does manage to destroy the Rajik. And then the Spitfire moving out around here. Yeah, he's got his other Locust with the assault hacking device moving to the objective. I recall him being very, very unlucky in this particular roll-off, because he failed the willpower check twice in a row, which is kind of heartbreaking, really, when you're, you know, spending a lot of orders, don't have that many orders, and you know you've got a lot to achieve this game, and failing them is just real painful. We've all been there. He has a Haqq, which has now put enhanced fire onto the Spitfire over here, the bulleteer, and he's gotten a suppression fire. I feel that these moves are generally fairly passive. Like, you've got the Diva MSV2 and the Spitfire here, but I mean, I've already done a lot of damage. I've killed 3 or 4 models already. I've killed his Pathfinder there with the Rajik 2. I've killed at least 4 guys, and what I can do now is spread out through the middle of the table with camo markers and mines and things like that, and use jammers and smoke grenades. So I feel like the suppression fire really might not have been that good. What I would have been looking to do as the Pan-Oceania player is try and find angles where I can move up and just attack and trade troops, like get to a point where you can use your long-range guns, the active turn, try and get through and sweep models, and it doesn't really matter if you do lose that model at the end of the turn in your opponent's active turn, so long as you even up the scoreboard a bit in terms of kills and actually reduce your opponent's order pool. So coming to my turn here, actually this is a situation where the Gazimotiwa has actually been attacked by I think no, this is an impetuous move where he puts on the smoke. I know that there was a point in this game where I responded to the Spitfire with a smoke grenade, and I thought that I got a crit in a 16, but it's actually a 15 for a crit with a short range against the with the Gazimotiwa being physical 12. I'm just very used to using the Shaolin monks in Yuching. Okay, so what's happened here is that this is the start of my turn. I've thrown a smoke grenade with the Impetuous on the Gazimotiwa. The Barid moves out to here, and you can see that there's just a very thin line between the green crate and past the smoke grenade, where he in fact actually has a Warcore further on the other side of the table, who hits me with a flash pulse, but luckily the Barid manages to survive that and not get blinded, I think passing the BTS save. So now that he's in the cloud, it's a bit easier to move up. Also got a Farzan Fort Observer pressing the button here on this objective. So having not been dealt with by the Warcore, the Barid now moves up to the staircase. And did you know a Bulleteer actually has a repeater? So what happens now is that the Barid is able to simultaneously attack the Fusilier Hacker and the Locust Assault Hacker. And this is really good because it means that the Barid can split its burst, like one shot, and use the lightning ability. So lightning is going to reduce willpower by 6, so to even just pass the attack, he's going to have to roll a 6 with the Fusilier and I think a 7 for the Locust. I can't remember if the willpower 13, but it's close, inside the 12 or 13. So what happens first is that the Barid successfully kills the Assault Hacker, from what I can remember, but the normal hacker rolls a 6 and crits me, so I got a little bit unlucky there, but I've traded like a Barid for an Assault Hacker, so even though the odds were is that I'd actually go up 2 models there, I'm still happy with that. I mean, I'm still ahead in terms of pieces at this point in the peace trade war. And I think this is another reason why keeping the Spitfire there and just going enhanced fire, suppression fire maybe wasn't the best move, because if you walk around the other side of the table and you can see the Haqqislam forces there, you can see that there's like a killer hacker, and you can see that he's on the same side as the repeater, and then you can just walk up through the smoke cloud, right, and do this exact move. So I think that's why maybe using the Spitfire just a bit more aggressively, trying to trade with some pieces before it goes down, it might have been for the best. On the other side of the table, I've got a Doctor Plus no less, moving up to the objective. We are treating these objectives as Silhouette 3 markers, so they do provide cover. She's going prone, so she's behind that cover and pressing the button to take this in the name of Haqqislam. On the other side, we've got a Haqqislam token as well here from the Farzan, so that's 2 objectives captured for now. And then, okay, so this is the Barid, which has gone unconscious. Move past that, I have a Tuareg Assault Hacker over here, and these little white markers are mine markers from Micro Art Studio, which have been flipped over, so when they're showing white face up means they're camouflaged. Flip them over to show the mines there if it gets discovered. So the Farzan has placed 2 mines, the Tuareg has opened the doors and placed another mine here, moving up with the Gazimotiwa. So this is second turn sort of plan, getting into position to make it very, very difficult for my opponent to come in and set up defensive positions in the room or take it later on. Bit of a zoom out now, so we've got the Janzaban H&G, which has actually stood up to shoot at the Warcore and destroyed him. I've kept this Gazimotiwa back over here, just in case the Bulleteer moves around and gets jammed. I guess this is one reason why he didn't want to, you know, move around with Spitfire and actually attack things, despite me saying that might have been a good idea earlier, just because the jammer blocking off this choke. What I would have thought to do though is perhaps move in that previous turn with the Spitfire and just come around the other side of the table, just because it's so fast, maybe find some opportunities elsewhere. He didn't know that I had a hacker at this point though, so maybe he would have tried that and got hacked, but hey, at least if the Assault Hacker does spring out of camo and actually attacks you, then you can try and brain blast it with your own hacker. since it's your active turn, so the repeater. So now he's got another turn here, moving around with the Bulleteer finally, and using it to fire at the Janzaban, and he does manage to destroy the Janzaban. And then when he comes around to destroy the Gazimatewa, that's the point where I thought that, okay, 16 will crit. Rolled the 16, we put the template down, he goes on to spin the next order, and then I realized, oh, sorry, I actually needed a 15. So we went back to that, resolved it again, and the Gazimatewa actually was destroyed. So what he ends up doing is he moves back with a Spitfire and just goes back to hiding again after getting those 2 kills. His Assault Haqqislam is destroyed. He's moving out with his Diva Spitfire now, and the purpose of that is to try and move in and actually get some kills on the mines. He's moved in his Engineer to try and capture this objective, which is done successfully. So there is that. His Diva does something which I found extremely risky, which was to move in and allow the mine to go off and just dodge the mine. So the reasons why I don't like this move is, number one, this is an important and costly model, which has NWI negated by shock. The mine has shock, and dodging is at -3 from the mine. So you don't really need to have to roll that badly to die to this. So I don't really like this. I don't really feel it was worth the risk. I think maybe moving back a bit further, discovering it and shooting it might have been safer. But hey, the decision was made, so luckily he does manage to dodge it. And then I have a follow-up turn. So that was his second turn. I'm going first. This is my final turn of the game. Gazimatewa moving forward impetuously to launch his chain rifle onto this guy to no avail. We forgot that the room has, what do you call this thing, a saturation zone, so reduced dice, so we forgot that the suppression fire was down to 2 dice. But it's a good thing to remember for your games, guys. So this guy's gone to NWA, he's not dead yet. Farzan moving around the side. The line of sight facing here doesn't actually connect to the Farzan. It's a little bit of a blunder with line of sight facing, so the shotgun, the light shotgun from the Farzan is able to destroy this guy here. Engineer over here too, so we can engage him. The Farzan has a rifle, so we're going into suppression fire. And then the Tuareg moving into the center of the room, pressing the button and putting down another mine. So that's about as best as I could do, really. So on the right-hand side of the table, I've got the Lasik there. In the middle, I've got like 4 mines placed now, plus I've captured the middle zone. So in his final turn, he has to move through, he has to beat the Tuareg, has to, you know, clear the mine, has to press the button. He doesn't even have the other objective captured on his side, so to have more objectives than me, he'd have to press his one and the one in the room. To just draw it up, he'd have to press the one in the room so that it's taken back, but by drawing it up that way, he could actually control the room and actually win. So with that in mind, moving on, this is the left-hand side here. With that in mind, he moves out with his Orc Spot, the other one, and actually shoots the flamethrower over top of the mine here. The Farzan tries to dodge out of the way. Doesn't work. The flamethrower does manage to nab him. And then, of course, as the bot moves further forward, the mine actually goes off and kills him. So at this point, he's got a Doctor which isn't fueled by too many orders, and just moving around the other side of the building to come into the objective room. And what she's got to do, this is the wrong photo, this is the last photo of the game here. So what she's got to do is move through the door, and she's got to avoid the mine and the Tuareg, and she's got to press the button, and she's got to basically have the Tuareg destroyed as well. So what ended up happening is she attempted to win the face-to-face shootout with the Tuareg, and I think again we probably forgot the saturation zone, but I can't remember. She does manage to kill the Tuareg, even though he's got Teo camo, so that was achieved. Tries to dodge the mine, fails and dies. But the one main thing I want to appreciate here, guys, is that even though I think the NCA player here is actually losing, like actually on the back foot, because so many orders have been lost, you know, behind on the objectives, you've got to get through so much to get to the objective room. You still have a chance to just win in a sort of a little bit of an obnoxious way, really, by going second, because it's just so easy to retake position in Infinity and just retake things with the active turn bonuses. If it had maybe a couple more orders or a couple more one more model nearby, that could have cleared out the mine, And if the Tuareg's dead, all the doctor's got to do is move into the room and press the button, because then I've got 2 objectives, he's got 2 objectives, and he's got the bonus for having the room controlled. So it's a win to NCA. Even though it feels like the Haqqislam player here has just done just about all they can to win on scenario, right? Really, I mean, I've made maybe a few mistakes there, but generally the play from Haqqislam has generally been better, proactively speaking, to actually get that scenario won. But when you can sort of come on there and at least have like a 20-30% chance, maybe 15% chance, I'm not really sure what it is, but to have that opportunity just because you've got second turn is really tough. So I'm not really too sure what else to say or what else to do. I think using mines is a good idea. Setting up suppression fire, not a bad idea. Or really just going all out aggression, and in your first, second and third turn you should be just trying to wipe them off the face of the board. And if you can actually have the objective, the buttons pressed, and wipe them out, that might work. It might even be worth just ignoring the objectives and actually just swamping them. Just go into the deployment zone and kill them. Maybe have one objective press so that if they go into retreat they can't really send models forward through your arrows. So let me know what you think, guys. If you have a lot to say about this battle report, I'm sure you'll post on the in the description. But that was another one, a win to Haqqislam. Hope you guys enjoyed it.